like I should say, live from Leap Fox Learning, this is Brian with Time Management. Anything else on effectiveness that comes to your mind? Instead of being efficient. You had a comment. Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. A couple of definitions that I've come across over the years. One, with efficiency, is doing things right, as opposed to effectiveness, which is doing the right things. Does that change anything? Do you agree with that? Okay. All right. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Can you be efficient with people? All right. Big question. Bring it down a little more. Can you be effective with your spouse? Can you be efficient with your spouse? Must be some really important pants you're wearing in the family there, Carol. Think about that. Can you be efficient with your best friend? Can you be efficient with your kids? Your teenagers? Yeah. I have found that time and again over my 27-year marriage that oftentimes what I think was going to score big points didn't score anything, did it, right? So I think it comes back to another definition that I'd heard. Effectiveness is with people, and efficiency is with things. I'm not saying those are definitive, and you've had some interesting interpretations of those, and depending on your definition of each of those, you'll find maybe some value in there. But why are we having an efficiency and effectiveness talk in a time management training? What's the point? What does that mean? I'm saying you're right, but yeah. Okay. It's all relevant? Okay. Or maybe there's a realm of relevancy where over here I can really focus on efficiency, but if I have to have that heart-to-heart talk with my teenager right now, if we have mother-in-law that's going into dementia, if we have some people we're going to have to let go, what happens if you're efficient with them? Or with some of the bigger rocks, the bigger things in your life? So as you're thinking about time management, make sure you don't get too caught up in a methodology or an approach to make sure you cram everything into your day as best you can, because there are things that are maybe vastly more important than that task list, that today's to-do, that you cannot be efficient with. And you may have to block off a large swath of time, maybe a couple hours, maybe a week. Maybe it's time for Brian to fly home to Phoenix to see his family and reestablish relationship, those kind of things. You have seen this, I'm sure, or at least heard tell of it before. So we'll do a little demo. Need some help. Who wants to be voluntold to come up here? Okay, James, come on up. It's going to be loud. James, object of this game, in case you weren't familiar with this, is we need to get these golf balls and all of these pebbles into this. But we're going to start with the small rocks, the pebbles first. Sorry about the microphone, going to be loud. Make them fit. No. Just that one. No. That was pretty good. I'm impressed. I'm going to have to use smaller rocks next time. Okay, so let's try it the other way. Oh, you're not done yet. You're not done yet. Get those back in. Didn't expect to have to go fishing. I'm impressed. All right. Oh, yeah, grab that one. This time, you can put those in first. Let's go. Can't cross the plane of the top when it's all done. It's got to be filled right below the top of the lid. Everything. Golf balls first. This golf ball it says Wilson on it, but really what it says is relationship with your spouse. Drop it in. Pull out another one.
So I gotta do all the golf balls first?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me do some golf balls.
No, I don't think so. That ball says your career. And that ball says relationship with your children. Now, fill it up. Oh, I've got an extra incursion in there. A little easier that time anyway?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you, James. And you can thank me also for not calling you Vanna. Nice work. Now, it's true if we worked really hard, maybe, maybe not. Maybe we get some smaller stuff in there. Maybe. Full yet? Nope. Sand from Cannon Beach. Maybe we can stuff a little bit more in there. Full yet? Nope. Always get a little more in. That portion of the demo is not the point. Time management is not how much more can we stuff into the hat of our day. We can cram it in there. James had a good approach. We're going to stick it in there. We're going to rifle it in there. But how much more effective you can be and how much more efficient in this scenario if the big stuff, the golf balls, go in first. What are some of the golf balls in your lives? Okay, family. Can you break down family even more? Okay, okay. Favorite kid, not favorite. Toddler, teenager. What's wrong? Okay. Other big rocks. Big golf balls. Parents. Okay. And I know at my stage of life, my parents, my in-laws, they're going to start needing a little more attention, a little more assistance, a little more support. That will throw my efficiency out the window. But I will be, I hope, an effective, good son, son-in-law, serving where I need to serve. What other big rocks do you have? Okay. Golfing. All right, something that really gives an impact, output to your life. Good. Instead of raking leaves all weekend, if you could have been hunting, that would have been a better deal, right? Okay. All right. give me a couple more big rocks. You all work for Department of Ag and Winco. What's a rock, an important golf ball at your job? Okay. Always a positive. I have experienced a layoff or two in my day, yes. Never with a black mark. I'm always out with a big crowd, so that's all right. What's that? Right. Okay. So if it's not something that you're focusing on, it's easy to spend on other stuff, trinkets, pebbles, so forth, but there will come a day of reckoning when you're close to that retirement and the golf ball has not been addressed. And now we're trying to cram it in at the end. Okay? Have any big projects at work that are going to really make or break something? Thanks. Yeah, right. You distributed the T-shirt. I survived Thanksgiving at Winco, right? Okay. Let's go back to page 2 of your workbook. Assuming that's going to play. Nope. Let's fill in some of those. Now, you have some quotes at the bottom of page 2. In very light, small font, just above those blanks. I know one of them doesn't give you a lot of room. Guess how you would finish that quote. Fill in the blanks yourself. Leave some space for the quotable answer when you're all done, but take a stab at it. Yes, they're all single words. Let's see how close you came, and maybe some of yours are far more profound than the people I am quoting here. First one. Brett, you want to read that for us? Author unknown. Would you like to claim that one for yourself? Okay. By Ordinary People by Brett. Next one. Jason. What did you guys put for that? Who made some guesses? Vesting? Okay. What else? What was that? Making? Okay. The other? All right. And on Ordinary People, what else did you put that one? I forgot. Anything profound there? Anybody nail it? Okay. Very good. And last one. I love this one. It really creates an image for me and helps me nearly every day when I first came across it to focus on the majors and not the minors. Do not major in minor things. And I should have mentioned too in this analogy what we're using with the golf balls and the pebbles, there is space in between the pebbles because we could cram some more stuff in there if we really wanted to. How is that space like our time management lives? Free time? Okay. Do we need free time? Can you be efficient all day long, 24/7? Efficient sleep, got my sleep app, got my, right? You can try. And maybe it's a goal. What else can you do with that space? Hear about those trees and those hurricanes, some that bend and some that break? If you're too rigid with that timeline, with your task list, if you're too focused on, I will do this one first, this one second, this one third, and other emergencies, other urgencies, other discrepancies fall into your life, you don't have enough room to shift. And maybe one day is a 6 day, and maybe one day is your boss came in with an extra project, it's got to be due in the next 2 hours, and that becomes your primary focus. I like the analogy of having a little bit of space in between the stuff to adjust. Wendy was talking about, oh, and what, did we ever get to finishing everybody's time management stuff? Okay. So, do you have some new stuff quickly for us?
No, I put it on my calendar.
Okay.
Use like a index card or sticky notes as reminders. Pre-plan the day before.
Mm-hmm.
A visual or physical reminder. Accountability person. Prioritize.
Okay. What kind of physical entity would be out in your way to remind? Post-it notes? Index card? Great. Okay. Thanks. So, and you're using calendaring too, and that's where that spacing comes back into play, and not being too rigid with what's going on, reprioritizing constantly throughout the day. I block time in my calendar. I'm working at Micron right now, and if I have a lot of deliverables, I look at the day before and I start blocking anything that's open that I can dedicate to each of those tasks, the prioritized ones, the big ones first, knowing that my boss is going to come in and have something that's going to throw me off a little bit, a couple of times a week, and then I just readjust. I take that in Outlook, I drag it over to a different slot, different location. It's still in the forefront of my face, and it's going to have a reminder, and as I can keep chopping away at it, I will do so. If I need to block out some more time down the way, I'll do that as well. Having space, using a calendar, blocking time for the most important golf balls in your workday and in your life. What else did you guys have?
Like app on your phone or something, calendar on your phone, you got the calendar on your desktop, different reminders throughout the day, things like that. Another one that kind of thought of is prioritize it. What you have to do now, what you can push off to later, and what you can delegate.
Okay, very good, very good. Yes? Sure. Preventing distractions. Okay. Thank you. And we'll talk a little bit about multitasking and distractions as we progress through this. All right. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. On page 3 of your workbook, there is a task brain dump. This is not limited to any realm or area or category of your life. In about 2 minutes, I want you to brain dump everything that's floating around in your head about what you have to do. It can be at home, at work, with your family, a couple of maybe your side job, everything that you know you've got to eventually get done that keeps popping into your head and nagging you. Write it out. You have 2 small columns. Leave those alone. Just use the big columns. Be brief. All the tasks floating around. Still got leaves in your backyard you got to work on. 2 months behind on your oil change. Got to pick up your kid from violin practice today. Got a grandkid who's going to be at an elementary concert next week that you got to plan for. Vacations, you're going out of town, you need to start making reservations on. All tasks. If you're still stuck, I put up a couple more items on the board or on the projector that might stir your memory. It's Christmas, lots of extra stuff to do. Shopping for individuals. Some of you might still be doing Christmas cards, at least planning the family Facebook post. Up close and personal. Nothing says Merry Christmas like me. Still stuck? As soon as you leave here today, when we are done, roughly or noonish or so, what do you got to do the rest of your day? What's going to bleed into tonight? Spouse still on your case like mine is right now because the Christmas lights aren't up? I know it. I know it. If I didn't know 4 people that are maimed, injured, or dead from doing something like that, it'd be okay. We'll introduce a couple of techniques, a couple of methodologies to at least prioritize, address, cull some of the most important things from this list. So get as much as you can. If you need to make something up, go ahead. That's fine too. Do you have date with your... Yeah. Stuff that's still bugging you. You're like, oh man, I haven't gone out plinking in the desert for the last couple of months. I really got to do that. It's garbage day tomorrow. Yeah. It's garbage day tomorrow. I got to go collect the garbage, get that out of the curb. Oh, recycling, darn it. Got to get that work done. You've been pining for the next episode of Longmire on Netflix. Definitely. We didn't. No, we totally did. I think it took 2 days, but that's all right.
Kevin watched the first 5 minutes. I had heard of it, and I watched it.
Yeah, that you do. Longmire. On Netflix. Yep. It's modern. Right next to the reservation, so there's a lot of interaction with Native Americans and their county. And turns out it was not filmed in Wyoming; it's filmed in. Yep. He would add some color to that. Yes, he would. Okay. I'm not going to have you read everything out there, but I really want you to get in the habit. least as an experiment for the next couple of days, of having something to record everything that pops into your head throughout your day that you need to do. On one level, I think you will find that very therapeutic. It gets stuff out of your head that just rattles around and nags you and gets in the way of the other stuff that you're doing. There is something magic about creating a list of stuff that you need to accomplish. Just keep that and pull it out tomorrow. If you were really authentic on your list and trying to get everything out of your head, pull it out tomorrow and just look and see how much of that is still relevant. How much of that you thought was really important today and has completely bottomed out in priority and importance by tomorrow or the next day. And decide how you want to record this. I have a notebook all the time. If I don't have a notebook really handy, I'm grocery shopping or whatever, I do have the phone where I can put a couple of reminders, a couple of tasks in my task list. I always have something to get it out of my head. And magically, just by focusing on that in this manner, some of that stuff is just going to get done, and you didn't even really plan for it. It just kind of happened. And again, other stuff just falls off. The best way that you can save time today is to not do stuff that's important. How much time would you get back if you learned to focus on the big golf balls in your life and could lower in priority all of that other stuff? Think of it's kind of a zero-based thinking of if I could go back and just eliminate all that stuff from yesterday that really wasn't that important. And we'll talk about what's important to you and what's not here in a little while. There's something to that. But now that you've got it on paper, I want you to try this approach. And maybe some of you have done this before. It's been around a while. It's the A&E approach to prioritizing your list. No, not the station, not the channel, A and E. This is A&E. A&E stands for a rating system for each of your tasks by priority. Side question, do you usually take an hour break or an hour and a half break? Hour and a half break? Okay. Every 15 minutes or so? Just to be efficient. Okay. Okay. So start looking at that list, and I want you to get an idea of what is most important, most impactful, must-haves, must-get done as soon as possible kind of list. And you're going to label those A. I want to call those the acute ones. Acuteness means sharpness, highly imperative, very important, critical. It's going to create some pain if you don't get that done. Run through your list, use that smaller column. Now, if you want to go further, you can prioritize the A's as well, because you still got to pick which A you're going to work on first. There's always going to be something, every moment of your day, where you can do the one most important thing. And we can only do one at one time. We'll talk about multitasking a little bit later, but which A is most important? So you could put A1, A2, A3, if you'd like to do that. I find that helpful sometimes when I'm really at crunch time and I've got a lot of deliverables at work and a lot of things going on in my life outside. All right. So as you're identifying the A's, now let's get to the B's. These are basic. There might still be some ramifications if you don't get those done, but they're not really priority. They're important. If I don't get my oil changed today, my car is not going to break down. I've got a little slush time. But if I have an oil leak and it's increasing, or a water leak, that might be an A as opposed to a B. So B tasks are still important, but they have no urgency at all. And if you don't do them today, nothing's going to come back and bite you. C's the casual stuff. There will never be really any ramifications for not doing those. For me, Netflix is just something my wife and I do. We're empty nesters, our kids are married, out of the house, and we still are involved in our church and nonprofit. I do a lot with Boy Scouts. Definitely got a lot of stuff going on at work. And Netflix sometimes is our date time. I like to look for more quality dates, but that's okay. But just sitting there by myself, watching evening after evening, for me, that is casual. I get no real benefit out of it. In fact, it might even be a detriment to the rest of my life because I should be doing something else more productive. So a C is just that stuff where nothing's going to happen if you don't get it done. And C's, as you label those, you can start thinking about, do I really need to fit those in? D is distribute. Is there anything else on your list that you should not be or truly are not responsible for? You're managing a team, and you know in your heart of hearts that you're doing more than you should. Well, I don't feel like training this guy. Well, I can do it faster. Is there anything else on your list that should be distributed? For me, I don't change my oil anymore. I just pull in, let them handle it. It's more efficient for me. I get more time that I can dedicate to something else. Now, if you're a real car guy, you love getting into that. That is your relaxation. That's your therapy. So that becomes much more priority than mine. If you have a family tradition of going out into the forest in Idaho City and dragging out a tree, that's awesome. That's a whole day and memorable experience. For me, I'd rather buy it. And lately, wife wants more artificial stuff. But my new daughter-in-law is coming up. She's from New Hampshire. She likes the forest. We got the real one this year. So what can you delegate? What can you distribute out? What can you get rid of? Because whatever you don't have to do, you can free up more time for the stuff that are really important. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Boy Scouts and how they work, but if you're really doing the program right, you have what's called a patrol method. You have a patrol leader. There's a leadership. And what you're supposed to do is use this program to train them to be leaders. That's really a major factor of what it's all about. So when you get a Scoutmaster, and I do training, and I'm kind of over, Boise is one of the top volunteers for scouting. When I show up to a scout unit and the Scoutmaster's doing all the work, has the agenda, plans out the campouts, puts together the menu for the campout, does all the activities, who's really learning there? Right? That guy already knows how to do that. It's supposed to be the patrol leader. He should be, or she should be, delegating that stuff back down to there. Now that's kind of have a hassle because it can take twice as much work, maybe 3 times as much work to get that person trained up, but that's how you do it. One, it's the purpose of the program, and two, if that kid sticks around a while, you've got it so much easier for the rest of your tenure when they just handle it. I've got a thing for that too. Yeah, got to let them do it. Doesn't mean you have to eat what they prepare. You give them choices. Exactly. So what on your list can you just get rid of? How much time would that save you right now? Even if there's an investment of time up front, what can you get rid of to make room for the golf ball that's still eating away at you? And last, eradicate. What can you just flat out cross out right now? There's no question. It's not important. It's not a big deal. So look through your list now. Take just a minute. I don't want you to spend too much time on this. This could become a habit for you, or at least if you decide to incorporate this more in your life, you might not have to actually write the rating next to all of your tasks every day because you'll just inherently start looking for those A's, B's, and C's. The D's and E's won't even show up on the list anymore because you know, oh, I'm not going to even start that. That's not my responsibility, or I'm not taking that over for this person, or I need to train this person to get this going. And you can, and you really should rate the A's and B's at the very least, A1, A2, B1, B2, B3. And the idea is, if you buy into this philosophy, is you never do a B task when there is an A task still on your list. If you're doing a B task, you should question, 1, am I just playing escapism here? 2, did I really need a break? Or 3, does it need to be an A because something has changed? Something needs to move up in priority. Okay? So it'll be interesting to see if that helps you. It has helped me. Here's another approach, and oh yeah, Brett. Yes. I think you have to do more than that. If I know for my job, I'm ambiguous. I'm a program manager, so I'm over job skills at Micron. So they got the fabs, right? And they got all these guys learning the tools. I'm kind of in charge of assigning the right curriculum to them and the right courses and training and documentation and everything else. So I can get stuff hitting me all day long. Every hour, I need to look at my list and see what is now important to me right now. It may be completely different from what I started with at the beginning of the day. Does that sound more reasonable than what you're talking about? Or anything else on that?
I don't know about doing every hour.
Yeah. And yeah, you might have a job where that's actually wasting time by going over you just know what you're supposed to do. But exactly, yes. And that's the time that, at the end of the day, especially when I'm a little tired or brain dead or whatever, that's just my routine of flipping over to my Outlook calendar for the next day. What do I got to start worrying about, preparing for? What did I not complete today that needs to carry over in tomorrow? And then I start blocking stuff in that calendar before somebody else takes it over for me. And those will be my priorities coming into the day. But even as I'm thinking about them at night or doing some other activities that I'm going to have to add into that happen in the evening, I'll get those into the calendar as soon as I can and reprioritize. And then after I'm there till about 10 o'clock in the morning, looks like I got to look at my calendar again to see what's come in that needs more attention. Because I get email. Microsoft, I got hundreds and hundreds of emails every single day. I don't get quite as many at Micron right now, which is really nice. But when I do get something at Micron, it typically means it's something that I need to look at pretty quickly and decide whether I need to move on it now or I can schedule it for later. I'm always reprioritizing. That's why I kind of stopped writing out the A, B, and C all day long. I just know the tasks are there. Any other comments or questions on that? I invite you to give that a try if you haven't done that before. But I really want you to try the list thing. And if you get really good at it, you'll have more stuff pop into your head, the way the educators say a priori or ahead of time. That was your Latin for today, a priori, coming in before. Meaning it's not going to be a surprise. You've already got it in your list because your head's figured out, hey, this person's going to write this down if I stick it in there now. So you have a list not only for today's tasks, but tomorrow's tasks for your week. And then you start projecting on your list goals for that month and for that year. And maybe even for that 5 years, because all the things that you were spending on with that 86 grand, some of those are going to take a little more preparation, a little more saving. But if you're sticking them in your calendar now and you're making those the golf balls of your life, you still have to work around them a little bit, but they're your goal. If you are doing orienteering and scouting, you want to get from this trailhead over to that mountain, and there are lots of different ways that you can go about it. You're planning right up front. And there is no direct route. You can't just go straight up to the mountain. You got gullies and rivers and creeks and trees in the way and a couple other obstacles that will prevent you from a point-to-point direct path. But if you keep working toward it as life bumps you off of the path a little bit because you put a priority on the golf ball and not on all the little pebbles that are on the side, eventually you'll make that golf ball a reality and have far more return of investment than you had on that rest of the jar of pebbles. That's the idea. Here, 80-20 rule, what do you understand by that? We won't do any exercises with this, just talk about it for a second. What's the 80-20 rule? Okay. Okay, 20% of action equates to 80% results. Does that make sense? Do you believe that? Have you seen that? Does that work for you? I know when I'm working with adult scouters, they're all registered. They've all said, we're in, we're going to help out. But it's usually the 20% that do the bulk of the work, right? And of your tasks, just scan it right now. For the most part, people discover that about 20% of those on your list are really going to produce 80% of the impact on your life because they're bigger stuff. And then somebody introduced to me that the 20%, that 20% actually can be broken down again by 80-20. And it really does seem to make sense to me. We have, I'm called the district commissioner for Boise District, all of Boise, all those units kind of roll up to me. And we have district committee meetings. And we can have a lot of people running our activities and membership and, you know, our Klondike Derby and our Camporees, but it's that 20% of the 20% that is coming up. So we got 20% that are across the district really working hard, but then you got another 20% that really go that extra mile, and they're your key folks. That's when you hit the ceiling called the Stp Rule. Anybody know what that means? Same 10 people. Do you have the STP, the same 10 people doing everywhere, isn't it? So that not only applies to life, and sometimes for you, I noticed it for me as well in some organizations, it's more of a 90-10. Sometimes there's a little slush, and maybe it's a 75-25, but right around 80-20. Looking at your tasks again, focus on that with the 20% glasses. What's going to really make a difference today on this list? And what can I just toss in the jar and get rid of? A couple other ways you may have heard this labeled: the Pareto Principle, Principle of Factor Sparsity, and the Law of the Vital Few. So in your distribution of your list of stuff, what does your task distribution look like? Is it roughly in that 80-20 realm? Is there a vital few for you? And last on this segment, let's look at our tasks one more way. Again, with the object in mind of eliminating, distributing, getting rid of, or at least reprioritizing everything on the list, because I want you to start thinking now of, what if I had more space in my jar? There's still always going to be stuff in there. There will always be more things in our life than we can ever possibly do. My list of tasks just grows and grows and grows. And if I were really focused on just putting check marks next to the stuff that I could cross out, I would be stressed all day long, because I can never get to that. But there is always room for the golf ball. So here's another way of looking at this. This is purported to have come from President Dwight D. Eisenhower. It's a way to prioritize tasks and goals and responsibilities. And then it was popularized or reinvented by Stephen Covey in his book, First Things First. You may have seen this quadrant approach before. Urgent and important. Non-urgent, not important. You've got a page in your workbook for that. Help define for me right now that first quadrant, important and urgent. What kind of tasks fit that bill? You have some, Carol? The A tasks. Okay. Life-threatening. Okay. House is on fire is an important and an urgent. That would be an important and urgent moment, and poignant also in your life. Yes. What else? What else hits that list? Maybe. Okay, so if that's a good point. If I have this golf ball family right here, but I ignore them today, is it urgent? It might be okay for a day or two. Or maybe they just know I'm really crunched at work and I have to dedicate a week. When they get to a month, they're starting going, hey, where's Dad? Where's my husband? Okay, so it can become much more urgent. But today, urgent and important. Anything else that interrupts your day that's urgent and important has to get done. Okay, comes in and says, here's your assignment. I got to have 3 chain level links up. They said they want this today. Got to do it. Okay, clear the decks. Don't care about my big plan. This is what I'm going to do, and that's going to keep me in the good graces, keep my job, and make sure I get a little bit of kudos. It's more important than anything else. What about a phone call? Okay. Depends on the phone call, right? Mr. Bishop, sorry to tell you, but you got to come pick up your kid at school right now. Oh, okay. Be right there. I'm just reminiscing because my kids are out of the house, but oh, I know. What? Yeah. Travel time and everything. Oh, man. Okay. Text. Urgent, important. Ooh, some of you winced on that. I saw you physically winced on that. Depends. Well, how are you going to know unless you answer every single one of those, right? All day long. Ping, 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 ping. Right. You're closing on a house. Your broker's going to be calling you between, or cable guy coming between 12 and 4 or whatever, right? Now it's become urgent and important. You can't get away from it. Okay. Now let's get over to the not urgent, but still important. What? I think you hit it on the head the first time. Golf balls. Okay. Because they're not pressing right now. They're starting to make it itch, and you really want to scratch them. And maybe you're procrastinating a little bit, or maybe you've allowed some other pebbles in your life, and it is a dopamine fix. When you start checking it, hey, got that done, woo! Answered that text, woo! One more page of Pinterest, woo! They like me on Facebook, woo! They got brain scans on this stuff. We like that little quick hit. That's why the text and the Facebook and the Messenger and all of the other social media, the emails, oh man, that golf ball's too big, but I got 10 of these other little things I could just knock out. That'll make me feel great. Yeah, it will for a short period of time. Okay? So, what's the not urgent? Stephen Covey says, he calls that quadrant 2 or Q2. If your goal in life becomes to focus more on quadrant 2, the higher quality of life you will lead. And I'm talking about the golf balls, and it's certainly hard to focus on the golf balls all the time because there are stuff that you can't just put off. Urgent and important, they do have to be done. But I think, as some of you might consider, a lot of those things that we label urgent and important, compared to a golf ball, don't even register. Urgent, not important. What's that? Everything we just talked about, right? Now that's for me, maybe not for you. I do have some important messaging from Facebook. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. I miss out on a lot. I know it. I make my wife the Facebook aficionado for the Bishop household. But I used to manage a little team at Microsoft over in Romania, and one of my Romanians got lung cancer. And so I was kind of pinging him because we're off hours. He's 9 hours ahead, and I would just kind of reach out to him, and that's how we would do it. He passed away last weekend. So what I could have ignored, and what would normally look like a label of, well, it's just Facebook, right? For that little period of time, that was really important to me because he and I became really good friends. So maybe these labels will slush a little bit, but for the most part, keep an eye on the golf ball and you'll be okay. Not urgent, not important, throw some stuff in there. We do it anyway, what could that be? Will life as I know it end without finishing that last season, closing season of Longmire? Oh, well, it could be. Yeah, maybe. No. I'll still live. I'll still have a pulse. I'll spend a little more time with my family. You know, if we had kids in the house and I was doing that right now, I would feel guilty. That's just not the way I roll. I can't sit there. I have trouble watching Boise State football game. As much as I've enjoyed sports over the years, nowadays it is hard for me to sit there and just watch 3.5, 4 hours of football when I'm the only one in the room. It's totally different if I've got friends over and my wife's really into it, and my son's up with his wife and they're totally into it. Now we got a family event. Now it's a golf ball. But it's not a golf ball if I'm just hanging out by myself. And I feel it. I don't know where you are in that, but that's the kind of thing that maybe that not urgent, not really important might slush a little bit. So take your list now. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Okay. And when it's I have friends where it's an event, right? They're at the tailgating party as soon as they can get in the parking lot, and they're there all day long, and that's awesome. They've got a whole entourage of friends, and it really is a big deal. It's the social event for them of their lives, basically. So cool. I don't have that network. If I had more family involved with that, then I would be that a little bit more. So I don't want you to take all of your tasks now from your list and try to fit them in there, but just pick 2 or 3 for each quadrant. If you need to make something up for not urgent, not important, because you're already pretty efficient, that works too, but just a quick bullet in each of those. Break about that, right? Okay. Mostly I want you to have a couple in each of those boxes so that you have a good example when you leave here of what kind of things fit in there. But you can go back online, look up the quadrants, time management, you'll find lots of information. Lots of different labels for the different quadrants, lots of different approaches. I do not pull out the quadrant anymore. When I learned this, I did for a while, and just throw all of my stuff in there. Because it's become ingrained in me. If I am off task, I am well aware of it. I know what I should be doing, what will have the most value, which may be the most uncomfortable thing I have to do during that day, but it'll still be the biggest thing that I can do in the long run. Yeah, Jane? Urgent, not important. Okay. Anybody help us with that? Snag. Okay. You're probably not going to find as much quality return on investment in those. It's the phone calls. It's the emails. It's the drive-bys, not because they're coming by your cube to give you an assignment because you're your manager. They're just coming by to chat. It's urgent because they're making it urgent. So if you don't have strategies to bump that away, you're going to get mired in a bunch of little pebbles for a while. Maybe so. Okay. Yeah, maybe clean the house is light. That could be therapeutic for some people, and for others, they do it to avoid some other stuff, right? They've made it urgent. So it's the phone call ringing all day long. Yes, it can go to voicemail. And you can condition people to expect that. I have colleagues, especially from my Microsoft days, that I knew if I sent them an email, they would get it, look at it, read it right then. That's just the way they are. And that was convenient for me, but I know in the long run it was not convenient for them. They were working overtime fairly frequently to get their job done because they've conditioned everybody else to know they're going to be Johnny on the spot whenever I come knocking. So what is knocking on your door and nagging you that's trying to disguise itself as being urgent because it's there poking at, but it's not really important? Grocery shopping? Well, yeah, do you have to go every single day? Unless you're vegetarian, it's going to go bad. That's probably not urgent, but still important. And if you're managing your time a little more effectively, what I want you to do is start, and we'll have a quote on this later, habitualizing those routine things. There are solids in your calendar that have to be. Got to go grocery shopping. If you're a churchgoer, this is when church is. If you have a bowling league, this is the night. This is where I got to pick up my kid from soccer practice. those get in there first. They're like walking toward the mountain. You can't make that direct path because there's stuff in the way that needs to be addressed or got around or whatever. But with all that extra wandering, you could be completely off the path, not focusing on that golf ball at the end. Any other comments on that quadrant? Finding that helpful? What I hope it does is just give you another perspective. Maybe some of you have used that before or you're introduced to it and haven't really put it in the context of today's tasks. But I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you. When you come back from break, we'll do a quick review and dive into some more stuff. See you. How long does it usually take? Make them viral. All right.
All right.
Lit. It's going to be lit. I'm still dealing with tight. I know. All right, Curtis. What do you get when you cross a dog with an antenna? A golden receiver. And where do you find flying rabbits, Don? The Air Force. Okay. And how do you, for our purposes, how do you organize a party in space? Yeah, how do you organize a party in space? You plan it. Go ahead, James. Oh, do you still want to give those testimonials? Okay. Back on your second, let's see, what page was that? You had on page 3, your task list, a quote that we did not finish up yet. Let's see. I want to make sure. Put a few things in a different order after we got a new PC. So let me figure out where everything went. All right. There we go. It's close. This is attributed to Dwight Eisenhower again. He was talking about being the commander of the Allied forces during World War II and what he was focused on. You know, possibly when you are going into battle, you up front than nothing at all. However, as soon as the troops hit the ground, as soon as the plan begins the execution phase, it is going to change. And President Eisenhower said, I've always found that making plans, or excuse me, having plans are useless. A plan is useless. Interesting concept from what we talked about today. However, but planning, the act of going through the motions of evaluating what needs to occur, that is indispensable. And so yes, we've already encountered that. We've got the jar with golf balls, and we keep trying to hold that golf ball in our vision, but then we've got other stuff that hits us. You made a plan, but you had the flexibility, and you already had the destination. I think of it from driving from Boise to Phoenix. If I have no idea where I'm going, I could drive all over these United States and never find Phoenix. I do have a plan. It's to get there, but weather's going to come in. You know, I'm not driving to Phoenix this Christmas, but when I used to do that, I had to get in between the storms. Maybe it's going to be the Salt Lake route this time. Maybe it's going to be eastern Nevada. We got slowed down. Now it's really late. We're going to stay in Vegas overnight, find a different place, whatever. So the planning part still gave us that objective. But know that the plans are going to go awry fairly quickly. All right. At the bottom of your quadrant page, there is a little piece that says multitasking mythology. Now, you don't have to agree with me on this. I will point you to a couple of interesting YouTube videos by the Nat Geo station when they were evaluating people who said they were master multitaskers, and giving them a couple of cognitive things while they're driving seemed to throw them for a loop just a little bit. But I'm going to propose that multitasking is a bit of a myth, at least the way a lot of us define it. Now, maybe we can redefine that, and you can still call yourself a multitasker when this is all done. Some of you also might say, well, Brian, you're saying multitasking is a myth because you're a guy. And if you're a woman, oh, well, you're a natural multitasker. Well, let's at least evaluate that theory, because it's not to say that you can never do two things at the same time, but two highly cognitive, thoughtful things, that can't happen. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You are not going to get in an accident every time you drive and music at the same time. Texting and driving, two cognitive, higher functioning in your brain kind of activities, they cannot cope. Does anybody know what the term multitasking came from? It's a computer science term. So especially in the early days when you had those early central processing units, the real brain of that computer that we used to use all the time. Now we have a CPU in our phone and our tablet and everything else. It was a single-threaded device. That means it really could only do one thing at a time. It gave us the illusion of doing multiple things, running Windows and opening up your email and connecting to the internet and keeping that connection live and working on your PowerPoint presentation and streaming music. It's all one thing at a time. It just does it so fast that it switches between all of those ongoing tasks. So the real definition for us should be switch tasking, not necessarily multitasking, because we have a single-threaded operating system. We can only do one cognitive thing at a time. So let's test that theory. You say, well, Brian, I'm a girl. I can still handle this just fine. Or, I've been multitasking for years. I wouldn't even got hired if I weren't this amazing multitasker. Well, let's just see how that plays out right now. You've got multitasking mythology all with a little bit of space in between. What you are going to do is copy that. You're going to write it out, but you can't just write out multitasking mythology in one line. For every letter you write, I want you to put a number right below. So you're going to start writing, when I say go, not yet, M1, U2, L3. Okay? Now look at your watch, because you can time yourself and see how long it takes you, and then we'll do something else here in a little bit. But when I say go, one letter, and then one number, go. For 30 seconds. When you're done, take a look at your watch, so you know how long it took you, and write your time down next to it. A few seconds shy of a minute. Everybody done? All right, how long did it take you? 42 seconds, okay. Anybody do it in under 30? Oh, 33? That's pretty good. That is really good. All right. We're going to do the same thing this time. However, timing yourselves again, you are not going to move between multitasking and the number. You're going to write out multitasking mythology, and then right underneath it, after you finish writing the letters, write all of the numbers right below the letters. Okay? You're gonna write out multitasking mythology all as one task, and as soon as that's written out, then write the numbers right below it, all in order. Check your watches. Go. Write your time down next to it when you're done. I'm making a grand leap of assumption that you were a little bit faster the next time. Or you're slower. We have the extra course for you right after this one, yes. We have some homework. So, under 30? For most of you, or really close to it? Was it significantly faster than the last one? Why? Does that make that much of a difference? Correct. Correct. Yes, that's another question. Was it harder? Was it less fluent? Missed a letter. And I'm sure you're not alone. Or maybe I didn't check everybody's paper, but you probably on a couple of them had to scratch out something and write it. Okay. So what's the difference between the two besides just having to switch? Is there any cost associated with switching between tasks that you can see? Time, effort, movement. Okay. And did you have to think a lot harder on the first time versus the second? Did you catch yourself second guessing? Oh yeah, you. Okay. L. Yeah, got it. All right. How was that any different from the rest of our lives and all the tasks that you already wrote out? So right below that, I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to make an estimate. Just do your best at guessing. A typical day. Maybe Monday's a little rougher and Friday's a little bit slower for you, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of day. Work, still got stuff going on at home. How many emails do you get in a day? Personal and professional. Every single one that you can think of. All of the stores that are pinging you right now. Amazon just sent you another invite. Make a guess. Think about it. Write it down. Just put emails equals whatever. All right. For some of you, it might be easier to count the ones you're deleting. Seriously. You get in there and you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, delete. Okay. Try the same for texts. Some of you don't get a lot of text. Some of you still have your flip phone and you're totally fine with that. For the smartphone folks, how many texts a day? Family, coworkers, friends do you get? I'm not talking phone apps. Real people texting you. Text equals blank. You guys, anybody in here use instant messaging at work, Skype for business, or Messenger, Facebook at home? A few of you, okay. If you have IMs that pop up throughout the day, home computer, work computer, how many do you usually get? IMs, instant messaging. Phone calls. Cell phone, office phone, how many calls a day? Home phone? Yep, all phone calls. We can break all this down into work. That's okay. And maybe some of you are getting more out of this just focusing on work, and you're like, Brian, just leave my personal life alone. That's a possibility. I would say in the broader spectrum of things, you'll be able to focus on many more golf balls if you put all of that together. But it is a work training, so do focus on that. But How many calls throughout the day? That's mom at 9 o'clock at night. Your kid is coming in a little past curfew, gives you a phone call. How many calls? And then drive-bys. How many people pop by your cube, your workspace? Or how many people knock on your door? And this is December. Maybe you get a couple extra Amazon deliveries, right? UPS coming by. How many drive-bys? What's that? Oh. I have had that, yes. Because I've had that, you may count that, I guess, yeah. It's a total distraction, yeah. And let's see. 2 more. How many times a day do you check the weather? Weather app? Weather site? How many times a day? Yes. Yes. You're watching it for weather? That would still count as one because you're pretty much in one activity at that point, right? And maybe some of you are like me, recovering newsaholics. I used to watch CNN, headline news, especially in college. That was kind of my break. It was big back then. And then now I've got some really cool news apps. I've turned off all the notifications, right, because they can ping you all day long. But I still find myself, at least on breaks, checking my little news app to see what's going on in the world. I am recovering newsaholic. If you have news that you are really attached to, how many times do you check it? But the last, if you want to put on that will make some sense here in a moment. And then last, for you smartphone folks, how many other notifications pop up on your phone or your computer? That is, you've got mail. That is, like I downloaded a little foreign language app. I was kind of working on my Romanian there for a while, and I still like to toy with it a little. I'll probably never get back there again, but it was interesting, and I was starting to pick up a couple of things. And it pings me 2 times a day. Hey, here's your daily lesson. Hey, here's your next vocabulary lesson. And I'm getting ready to turn those off too. But how many other notifications are you getting? Facebook? Messenger? Well, not Messenger because that was IM. We're breaking that up a little bit. But yeah, Facebook. All right. Yes. Yes, Outlook pop-up reminders. That's not an email. Well, I mean, it can be an email too. If you have turned on the notification that says you've got mail and you got the desktop pop that says, hey, you got one? Oh, and the little, in the system tray down by your clock, that kind of shows you, hey, you've got another mail as well. A little message pops up on the side of your screen. Any of those notifications, yeah. That's what we're looking at now. How many more? And your task list, if you're using Outlook for your tasks, how many times are you getting reminded by the next task that's due? Yeah, count them. Typical Tuesday. What are you going to do? All right, add them up. Then a rhetorical question for you. Does it hurt? Not too bad? That's good. In light of what you just did with multitasking mythology, switching between one item and the other, what does this indicate to you? Okay. Is there a cost for switching? Okay. Be very interested to, if you took some time now, we won't take this training time right now to do that, but if you put in a time estimate on all of those tasks that you just added up per day, and not only the motion of moving from you've got a new email back into your Excel analysis that you're doing over here. Oh, text, okay, oh yeah, okay, back. But the actual recovery time. I'm a plinker. I'm not really a hunter, I'm a plinker. And it always makes you laugh if you watch an action movie or something like that and someone's got a pistol and they're firing and it's like a cap gun. The barrel never moves. They just keep pulling the trigger and everything's just straight on, right? That doesn't happen in real life. unless you got a very smaller caliber gun, just about everything else out there, when you pull the trigger, there's an explosion in the chamber. There is combustion. And that is going to make that barrel rise just a little bit. And it's called a reacquisition. You have to get the barrel back onto your target. If you're shooting a can down the road or a target, whatever, there is a reacquisition time. Every time. You can't stop it. It just is. And the bigger caliber you have, the more reacquisition, the more motion you've got to go through. How much reacquisition time do you see in those tasks that are taken in a day? What if you were able, just today, just with that little tip right now, grab all of the reacquisition time back? Is that 2%, 5% of your day? I never really applied this one to me, but I did read in a couple of places over the last several years that if you switch a task that you're really deep into for something else, a drive-by or a knock at the door or a phone call, some people estimate that it can take you up to 15, 20 minutes to get back to where you were at the level of effectiveness that you were at before the distraction hit. For most of my tasks, that's not the case, but when I get asked to do some analysis and put together this manual report where I got to export this and that and correlate them together and VLOOKUP and whatever, that distraction really does cost me some time. I've got 3 spreadsheets open. They're full of data. I don't even know where I was looking last time I got that visit, you know. What else can you do? So we're not going to do this, but this is for homework if you want to try it out. There is a page in there in your workbook, the interruption log. Totally. Absolutely. Yes. I am breaking your flow. Which is interesting. It's a learning theory that they've figured out with a lot of different studies too. When you make something harder and make people focus on it just a little bit more, you learn it better. So if you're reading a book and you skim through it really fast because you're a great reader, that's okay, but you won't retain as much as if somebody changed the font. Like they made it a harder font to read, or if they made it smaller and you had to put that little bit extra effort into it. That's why you have some fill in the blanks here. It forces your brain to park for just a moment, stop and think, and then get back re-engaged. You actually remember things better. Maybe you have some distractions on your list that are like that. I would bet that most of them are not. So throughout the day, just one day, or maybe you just do it in the morning and then you get frustrated because you filled up the entire sheet, keep track of how often those little kind of distractions are popping in. Just for a little while and see. And then figure out some strategies to mitigate that. For some, it's grouping the tasks, right? I'm the guy that won't check his email every single minute. I can't. It takes me too much time. Especially at Microsoft, it's just flooding in. I could spend my entire career just reading emails. Almost 75, 80% of my day would be reading emails. I block it. I just, in my head, I'm going to do it right when I get in. I'm going to clean that slate because there's some things that might have come in that I have to now prioritize in my day that became higher priority. And then I'm going to leave it for an hour or two. Especially if I'm in a higher thinking activity where I really got to focus for a while. I don't want reacquisition. I want to focus. And if there's a drive-by, I say, hey, love to talk to you right now. I am so into this. I've got to get back to work. Let me talk to you later at lunch or whatever. Back to work. Back to work. Back to work. Social networking, I've heard somebody label it social not working. What can you do to reacquisition all of that extra time? Right. There's a little time on. We are going to do a couple more activities, then we're going to focus a little bit on delegation for a bit. Go to page 6 in your workbook. Now that you've looked at all of these different tasks, the distractions, you've got the pebbles and the golf balls hopefully rolling around in your head, you've got a few images, maybe you've had some opportunity to reevaluate where you are in your time management practices. Let's go back to the golf ball one last time. I have put some categories in that little top graph. If there is something in there that you want to swap out, maybe fun and recreation isn't your thing, or Maybe your finances are totally under control and you don't have to worry about that. You can replace that with something else. But I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Color in all of the empty boxes up to the level that you feel you're effective in that category. So if you think, boy, I have really been focusing on my family the last month, and my wife's really happy, and my kids are doing okay, and one's still struggling, but I've been there for them. There's not really much else I can do. She's got to figure it out for a while. If you think you're really nailing it, give yourself a 9 or a 10. If you think you're off a little bit, then color in the boxes from number 1 all the way up to the level that you think is good for you, that really reflects your today. Start coloring it at 1 and move your way up for each category. Once you've completed that, we want you to give yourself a baseline. So color in or highlight, make bold the line that connects all of those points. Just start at relationships, and from the top of that box, kind of draw a line up to the next top and across. Just connect it like a little bar chart. And in analysis terminology, that's your baseline for your rocks right now, your golf balls, the boulders that really make a difference in your life. Another way to break this down is I like to do this by role. What are my roles in life? Rather than a broader category. Let's see. Well, I'll back up for that. Somewhere in there I've got who I am today. I finished graduate school, but that was a role for a couple of years. I was a student. I was still a father. I'm still a son because my parents are still both living. I am an in-law. My in-laws just moved into my neighborhood. I am not moving anywhere now. I will be there for a long time. It's great to be trapped in Idaho. I love it here, so that's okay. We already know my wife is not moving to Phoenix anytime soon, and that's okay too. I am a brother. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. I am a coworker, a friend, a neighbor, a churchgoer, Boy Scouter. I take those roles and I start building some goals, trying to identify the golf balls around each of those. That is how I break down my life and make sure I'm not missing anything that's really important. For you at this point, you've got that extra little graph at the bottom. I want you to write in what you think would be a primary golf ball for that category. Just a brief bullet of, maybe you're not as close to your neighbor as you'd like to be. You used to be doing stuff together all the time, and now you've kind of fallen away. So you say, reconnect with my neighbor. If you were to delegate 3 of these tasks to this other person and take the time to train them at work, you know that you would be better for it. You give them growth and opportunity. Maybe that's for your coworker or your career golf ball for right now. Or maybe it's whatever happens, I got to go back to grad school, or I got to finish my degree, or I've got to get this certification. Yeah, a goal or a big golf ball. In other words, not just little goals, not a task list. These are main life objectives for each of those categories. To wrap things up on time management, I hope that some of you are familiar with what's up on the board there, establishing values, mission, and vision. That's really a way of putting together all of these golf balls into one paragraph, one broad statement about who you are, what you stand for, what you will not stand for, and what you want to achieve in your life. Why in the context of time management? Because we are not here, I am not here to train you to get all of the aquarium, little rocks, sand, water, and completely cram your day so that you can check more boxes. I am here to free up your time and your vision for the highest priority goals in your life. On the next page, you'll see a SMART graph for SMART goals. SMART has a lot of different labels. So this is the one that I use. We're not going to go into values, mission, and vision, but really you should take some time and say, what do you stand for? What do you represent? Is it people? Is it family? Is it, I don't say integrity. I think without integrity, all the rest of them fall apart. That's kind of a foundational one. But if you say being positive, and those are some values you might have. Choose your values, develop your vision, state your mission. All that we have done today has really kind of helped you to start focusing on those most important umbrella objectives. For values, who's on first up on the wall? See how your values will affect your life here? For the first quadrant, I put God, spiritual, higher power, whatever. If you have feelings for that, are you this person? Putting God first, family second, work third, and personal fourth. Can you envision that guy in your head? And where you play in priority to that person? What about the next guy? Quadrant in the top right. What if she is only focused on work? Work always comes first. And everything else in the jar is down. How would you like to be a spouse to the person who puts work first all the time? If there's a choice, it's going to be this way or that. Family first, work at the bottom. Ooh. Maybe if that's day to day, the person's probably going to be out of a job for a while. Sometimes these have to shift a little bit. That's why I have space in the jar. But what if this is years where you're just there filling a seat at work? What's going to happen to your career? How does that affect ultimately your family and personal goals and creativity and development? And last, personal development and growth first, but God last. Who do you want to hang out with here? Which one's your ideal? Who do you want to be friends with? Who do you want to have children with? Which one is your ideal? And then work downward towards your task list and save yourself a lot of hassle and time. Little thought for you. How we spend our time reveals our values. You have a lot of evaluation today on where you're spending your time. Is it where you want to be? What if you really could be happier, more fulfilled by focusing on the golf balls? What if you could get, just after today, trying out a couple of little things, 2% of your day back? Would that make a difference? 5%? What if you set it a personal goal to get 15 to 20% of your time back that's only focused on the good stuff, what you're good at, what you're filled at? And then, yeah, you're going to have emergencies. There are going to be some urgencies that you have to address. But by and large, your boat is sailing to the shore that you want it to and not just floating around checking boxes. Let's see, personal themes. We did life bar chart. For the SMART, I'm just going to give you one little section that from those other goals that you created, I would have you, we don't have time for that right now, but I would have you pick one. The one you think is going to be the most impactful to you, your top A. And then SMART it out, meaning make it specific. I will go to Rome by February 2nd. Or I will say, I will save X amount, $10,000 by 2019 as my emergency fund. It is specific and it's measurable. You can see a time frame and it's achievable. I will never center in the MBA. I don't care how much affirmation I should put into that. Ain't going to happen. But I could have a goal to have a great field or a free throw percentage. That's within my power. And that is the key that messes everybody else right here. That's why I'll stop on for just a minute. Achievable means it has to be within your scope. A goal of all of my sales reps will sell $10,000 in product in December. What's the problem with that? I am not in charge. I can influence, but if one guy gets sick or slacks, the whole goal is blown. It's out of my purview. I cannot force my spouse, my friend, my coworker to do anything. Can't do it. But I can set up the training program, and I can set up the scheduling, and I can have the one-on-ones, and I can do the coaching. So my goal is I will create a program so that everybody has the opportunity to hit that $10,000 goal in December. I will do everything. If they don't make it, okay. But I will take away all the excuses. Any excuse I can think of, I will fill that so that they can achieve what they need to achieve. So make it achievable. It's got to be relevant. It's really got to be one of the big golf balls. And it does have to be time-bound. There's something magic about saying by December 30th. Because now your brain's focused on it. It's looking for opportunities to address that. And it's shoving aside all the extra paraphernalia that fills your schedule that you really don't need. And what happens if December 30th hits and you don't hit your goal? Don't hit your date. Change the date. Just change the date. It was a forecast. Forecast is guessing. Every financial analyst out there is guessing. I don't care how much schooling, how much experience. They do not know what the market will do tomorrow, unless they're lucky. We're forecasting, so we readjust the forecast. Weather guys have satellites and Storm Tracker 7000, but things can come up. And last, what's your tool of choice? Did you know in Outlook you can even set that to 15-minute increments in your calendar? If you get really focused on being efficient with your time and effective on picking the right things, maybe 15 minutes will actually do better for you. I use my phone. I've got my Outlook app, and I've got my Google Calendar for work, and I've got them all kind of synced up and hopefully minimizing some of the interruptions that happen, but I know where I am, and I've got my next couple of weeks scheduled out. What did you get out of this portion then? Time management. I want to hear what you learned. What are you going to change? Let's find a blank piece of paper there somewhere, maybe on the back. Answer one or more of those questions. TM is time management. That may also be helpful, yes. We talk about freeing up time. What would you do with it? If you had 15% more of your day, what would you do with it? Watch more Longmire. Is there something we did that you want to try out, just for a day? Or you're still saying, yeah, that all sounds good, but that but is going to come into play here as soon as you try something. What do you intend to do to get around it? Drive-bys, in a nice professional manner, say not now. Email, I'm only going to look at it once an hour, not every time it comes in. Notifications, I'm going to turn those off. Social media, I got my lunch hour. That's when I'll do that. Final words, final epiphanies then. Things that are standing out in that little reflection. Just a couple of comments is all we have time for. Procrastination. Yeah. Okay. Taking their eye off of the goal and yeah. True. And we could have a whole class just on procrastination as well, and how to do it and how to avoid it. And yeah, next time around. That's right. Did you have? Yeah. Okay. And we could certainly spend a little bit of time on that because there are ways to get around that. One thing that's really helped me is I've made it a habit. I've fallen out of it here recently. I got to get back on the wagon, but every day I would look at my big goals from that bar chart, and I would look and see if trying to forecast ahead. Am I focusing on those based on what I see in my schedule, or am I letting myself get off task? And we wanted to go to Paris last year. We set a goal, got on Travelocity, got a great deal, and saved up for it. And we were thinking about it all the time. You know why? Because we were really motivated. And I'm reading a book right now. It's about why you shouldn't try to motivate other people. And the premise on that is we're all motivated. Every single one of us is motivated by something in this room. It may be friends at home, not at work. They're motivated to do something. We're all motivated to eat and drink. We're all motivated maybe to go to the movies or to look for a recreation opportunity. This hopefully identifies things that are so important to you, and you can see such a great return on investment for your efforts that it can become more of the forefront. But you do need to habituate it. I look at those goals every day, or at least a couple of times a week if I get behind. But it's easy to put it off. It's easy to push off applying for graduate school. I am a professional at that. I did that for years and years. Finally just said, now's the time. Took the test, got in, 2.5 years later, got it done. And it hurt. But it was worth it. All right. Any other epiphanies? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's why I start out that exercise with 86 grand. Here's your time frame. Here's the time allotted. You can't get it back. It's going to disappear. How are you going to spend it? What's going to make you the happiest out of that purchase? Last comment? Got it? All right. Need to stand up for a sec? Or are you good for delegation? You don't have a lot on delegation. Good? All right. Delegation. Why is this in part of time management? Well, that was the D on our task list of ratings. Distribute it, get it off of our list, get it out of our hair. It's going to hurt for a little while, but once somebody else has it figured out and they own it, we don't. Delegation is the assignment of responsibility to another person for the purpose of carrying out a specific job-related activity or activities. as we're going through these slides, I want you to jot down anything that comes to mind that you suspect you should get off your plate. And it can be at home too. It's not just work. It can be at home. Challenge is delegating the right things and not delegating the wrong things. What we mean by that? Who wants to read that for us? Go ahead, Dustin. Ouch. Do you find that true? Maybe you're in a managing position. You can think of people that, you know, they've been kind of itching in the back of your head. I really should give them more trust, more opportunity for growth, more take over some of my important tasks that aren't as important to me as they could be to this individual for their growth and learning and career development. 1 in 10. Think about yourself when you are being managed. How many times did you think, man, if that guy would just give this to me, if she would just take this part of her schedule and hand it over to me, I could totally handle that. I'd make all these friends, I'd make these other connections, and I'd be able to gain more experience, and she'd be that much happier. How many times have you had that before? A couple other ones. Who wants to read that one? Go ahead, Carol. Oh, more competently. There are some things that I found myself keeping or hoarding just for a little bit because it had a little extra recognition. It was a little more kudos. But I knew in my heart if I gave it to somebody else, they could do a much better job. And that's wrong thinking. And it's cluttering up my schedule. And it's pushing away all the stuff that I'm really good at for something that I'm not as good at. Next bullet. Go ahead. Whoever wants to read that. Carol, you want to do that again? Ooh, is there a potential 5, 10%, 20% gain of time back just by learning how to delegate more effectively? There was a comic in here, and for copyright purposes, I wasn't going to show that up here, but the essence of it is you have a boss at a desk, and behind the wall, he has a piece of paper posted up that says, "My work." And it has, as a bullet, a single bullet on the entire paper, "Delegate my stuff." And then paper over here is everything I need to delegate, and it listed basically his whole job description. So there is an extreme on one end and on the other of when it's appropriate to delegate and when not. So let's hear from you. Typical hang-up from somebody, not you, but typical hang-up from somebody that has trouble delegating. Why would they want to not do that? What are their concerns? Won't get done right. Okay. You know how to do it. You've done it for years. There is a right way to do it. They're going to screw it up. Shirking responsibilities. Okay. What else? That's a big one. Giving up control. I'm sorry? Oh, correct. Yes. That's another thing. Maybe it could be done differently, but maybe they're thinking a little bit outside of that box. And they have a different approach, and it confuses you. And you're like, why would you do that? Turns out after they've been doing it a while, it's just faster, better than what you were doing, right? Sorry, I keep going what? It was that Journey Bryan Adams concert of '83 that kind of started my hearing loss. It's gone down ever since. Yeah. Big Head Todd and Monsters the other night didn't help me either. What else? Any other hang-ups? There's investment in front, right? When you've got that scoutmaster that's got to train a 13-year-old how to put together a meeting agenda and how to plan a camp out for a weekend, there's a lot of stuff that